I could sit around and wait all day. You lay easy on my mind, like a candle I just burn away. All we really have is time.
Hello friends, today's video is the final update about how our house looks after we did a ton of work on the front yard and our house and property to prep for our wedding. I'll kind of do a brief overview of what we started with. This is me painting the front porch. It was kind of a faded red, and I just basically wanted to paint it a dirt color so it just kind of looked more clean and tidy. And there was a bunch of just overgrown vegetation all over the property, so we ripped a bunch of that out. There was a fence all the way around the front yard, but it didn't really serve much of a purpose because Marcus's dog could just jump over it. So we decided to pull out all of the posts and all of the front fence. It was a great fence. It just didn't really serve much of a purpose because it didn't really keep anything in. So we ripped that out, and then we ended up putting in this cedar fence instead around the backyard so that the dogs could be kept more in the backyard. Marcus and my dad built this fence, and then we painted it this really beautiful kind of cherry color. And we ended up painting all of the trim the same color. The trim was stained before, but it had just faded over time. And so we painted it the same cherry color just to give a really sharp matching look. And wow, that made it pop so much just to have that beautiful cherry cedar wood fence and the little detail of having the arch. Man, it just looked so beautiful. Next, we ended up spray painting the front yard to kind of give an idea of where we wanted all the flower beds to start. And after we spray painted it, you can see Marcus in the background with the bobcat. He went around and basically edged the whole yard with the bobcat. He can be so detailed with that thing. It's incredible. There was this short little sidewalk that basically led to nowhere and wasn't usable. So we wanted to rebuild the whole front walkway, which meant that we had to rip this concrete out. So he took the bobcat and pulled it out. I was completely enamored by how amazing heavy machinery is. Oh my goodness. If you can have the right tools and the right machines, it can make really big jobs so easy and so simple. And Marcus is so talented with these big machines. It is so crazy. We also recently bought a tiller that we found on Facebook Marketplace, and he tilled the whole front area where the front walkway was going to be, so it could be ready for the front walkway. And then we tried to decide what we wanted for the front walkway. We ended up going with kind of a cobblestone like this. We were playing with the idea of having kind of a flagstone look, but we ended up sticking to a cobblestone look instead. And then we picked the edging pavers for all the way around the yard and got a bunch of plants, a ton of flowers, a ton of grasses and shrubs, and all easy keep kind of plants. My mom is amazing with landscape stuff, so we went shopping and Mom helped us find amazing plants. My parents did all of this with us. Not that especially Marcus really could have done all of this himself, but we were just on such a time crunch that there would have been no way that we could have got all this stuff done without the help of both our parents, his parents and my parents. They were amazing help. We ended up using railroad ties for the outer part of our flower beds for the outer edging, and it worked really great. It looks really sharp. It kind of matches with the cedar fence and the trim that we have on the house, and it was also a really cost-effective way of having really nice edging that wasn't a butt ton of money, and it turned out really well. Then we ended up adding all of the fabric for the weed cloth to go underneath the flower beds because we didn't want to have to deal with a ton of weeds. So we put weed cloth under absolutely everything. But before we put the weed cloth down, we basically set every plant out and just kind of planned where we wanted everything to go. And then the larger plants, like the big trees and big mature bushes that had a large root system, we planted all of those before we laid the fabric down because we didn't want to have to try and shove them through a little teeny tiny hole in the fabric. So we planted all of those first and then basically patched in the fabric around these plants, and it worked really nicely. Now this was when everything really started to look like it was coming together. We bought a ton of gravel and we started to spread the gravel all across the driveway. Marcus's dad did a ton of that, and actually seeing the plants in the ground, actually imagining what it was going to look like, oh my gosh, it just made it look so beautiful and so put together and so nice. And a lot of the plants that we planted, we kind of had a vision in mind of what purpose they were going to serve. A lot of those shrubs are shrubs that get several feet high, so they also will kind of help with privacy eventually and to kind of block some of the dust from our dirt driveway, and just also aesthetically kind of hide the neighbors and stuff like that. And it's going to look so great in a couple years when all of these bushes have really started to grow up tall. This is about the time when Marcus started building the front pathway. And oh my goodness, it was so incredible how fast this pathway came together. Him and his brother built it together, and they really did such a professional job. It looks incredible. We then started to add all of the edging on the inside of the bed, and we did kind of these rough, natural looking oblong kind of cobblestone pavers, and we did that all along the inside of the yard just to kind of give a barrier between the yard and the flower beds. And wow, this was a long process of making sure that everything was level, and it was a lot of pounding, a lot of digging them down, a lot of adding more sand to just make sure that they're all level and secure, not wobbly, and that they were going to stay hopefully forever and ever and ever, and never have to redo this ever again. Here's what it looks like with all the fabric down and good portion of all of the inside pavers down. After this is when we started adding all of the bark. You can kind of see in the background where the bark is, and oh my gosh, that just made it look so nice. Here I'm working on our wisteria plant. My parents had a wisteria plant in a pot at their house, and it just never really liked the area that it was in. It was kind of too much in the shade, and it was never thriving. And it was kind of in a separate pot that my mom had to hand water, and so she just said, to heck with it. I don't want to have this wisteria anymore, so if you want it, it's all yours. And so I snatched it up. It was nice because it's a really mature wisteria with long vines, and we basically hand unwove it from her post and hand rewove it around our post and pinned it up over the top of our front porch. And oh my goodness, I cannot wait to see what this wisteria looks like when it blooms in the springtime. It's going to look so beautiful and so amazing. I just have always pictured having a house someday with wisteria dripping all over the front of it. Oh my gosh, it's just going to look so amazing. When I was in Europe, wisteria was everywhere. It was crawling all over all the walls and buildings and all over the doorways of homes, and it just looked so beautiful and totally inspired me to have it at our home. So we got it all set up and put it on a drip system, so I don't even have to worry about watering it. This whole front yard is all on a drip system. We did all of the irrigation so that we never have to hand water anything. And boy, has that been such a blessing to not have to go around and hand water really anything in our front yard. Everything is just already set up with irrigation tubing, and I don't even have to worry about anything, which is so nice. The whole goal that we wanted for this front yard is we wanted it to look beautiful, but we wanted it to be as low maintenance as possible. We wanted to be able to leave town for days and days and not have to worry about who's going to water the yard, who's going to water the plants. And even if we weren't going out of town, I don't want to water plants every day if I don't have to, especially if it's like plants that aren't giving me food. So it just made more sense to have it all set up to an irrigation system.
My daddy's daddy was his only son. Died. He walked on water.
There really was something so special about this time. Not only was it my first real home and getting to make it my own, getting to plant flowers in a home that I was going to own and that I now own, and really just building a life with my partner. I've never had that before, and this is such a first for me. And it wasn't just that, it was getting to do it with our families, having our brothers and our parents and our family all come together and do this with us. It was such a fun way to get to know each other's family on a deeper level. We had spent time with each other's parents and each other's family before, but there's just something different about working alongside each other and getting to know each other as workers and with a common goal in mind, and being hot and sweaty and listening to music together and telling stories, and or even just working in the quiet and listening to the birds. There's just something so cool about it, and it was so nice to just get to do that as a family. It really felt like an old-fashioned barn raising, honestly. I also have a part 1 of this whole project where I really go into deeper detail of everything that we did for the first part. I have more footage of what it looked like before we got started, and I really go through every detail of the first part of this whole yard renovation process. On this day, when we were working outside, it was so rewarding just to see everything come together and to see how beautiful everything was starting to look, and getting to water plants that were really in the ground and having irrigation systems getting set up and seeing the bark come in, and it was just so beautiful. Okay, now is the time for, I guess, what you would call the final reveal of what our yard looked like after all of the work. We put in the screen door too, which ended up being quite the chore for poor Marcus because it wasn't really the right size for the door frame. It was kind of more of the door frame's fault more than anything because it was just kind of a funny size. But you can see what the front pathway looks like with all of the bark and the green grass and the beautiful curved edge of the landscape, and everything just looks so neat and tidy. And my mom got me this olive tree because she remembered that when I was in Italy, I loved seeing all of the olive trees everywhere. And our climate here in Oregon is actually pretty similar to Italy. So we can actually grow a couple different varieties of olive trees here. And so we planted this one in the corner of our yard. So hopefully it will grow big and strong, and we can actually grow some olives and maybe figure out how to press some olive oil. But that's a project for future Brittany and Marcus. Here's what our front porch and front pathway looks like. Right in front is a tree. You can't really see the top of it, but all the trees that we planted were all basically like city street trees, so they wouldn't get more than like 20 feet or so, or maybe up to 30, but they just wouldn't get very big. But they bloom so beautifully. They don't drop a lot of little seed pods or a ton of leaves, but they'll give nice shade for the front of the house. We did these little pathway stepping stones to the front water faucet, and we did also another flagstone pathway from the lawn area to the walkway so that the lawnmower could get through here. We made sure it was wide enough. Mom and I did this together and just had a bunch of sand underneath and made sure everything was really level and sturdy, and watered it down and made sure that everything stuck. All those mums were from the wedding, and so we just plopped them right there. They're not planted, but I thought that they looked pretty for the time being. But all of those grasses and bushes on the back side of the landscape will grow up taller and will hopefully eventually kind of give us some privacy from our neighbors and give them some privacy in their backyard as well. This pathway, it just, oh my goodness, it ended up looking so beautiful. Marcus is a true professional when it comes to installing cobblestone pathways. I love the way that the front porch ended up looking with the wisteria and the hanging basket and the swing. We put up an American flag and a little welcome mat, and it just looks so crisp and fresh and really warm and welcoming to me. This is what it looked like before, and you can just see, to me, it's such a night and day difference. Just doing a couple little things, just some paint, a new screen door. Here's a picture of what it looked like on our wedding day. Marcus carrying me through the threshold and getting these pictures. It made me so thankful that we really went the extra mile to make it look so beautiful with just a couple little things. Marcus also built this outdoor patio for our wedding, but also for us. We used it as the dance floor for our wedding, and it worked so well. He did the same technique for the cobblestone. We used the exact same cobblestones that we did on the front pathway, so they match. And then he did all of the timber work himself. He had some help with some of the timber stuff from his brother, but not really. Honestly, he did most all of it himself, which is just so incredible. All of it was so even and sturdy and just done so quality. This is where we got married. My dad built this arch for us, and eventually the arch that we got married under will be the entrance to our garden, which will be so fun. That this was the arch that was the entrance into our marriage, and now it's going to be the entrance into our garden. And there's just so much symbolism in that. To me, it's just so beautiful. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.